All right, so do you want to live longer? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Some strategies to enhance longevity.
I'm going to start because this is a huge one and people do not give credit. Sleep. It is the number one. The brain decreases in size, feeds at night. It's like a vampire. Believe it or not, if you don't sleep, the brain doesn't shrink, so you cannot bring those foods that you require. Sleep is one of the most important elements. And people stay up watching TV, playing video games. What's the name of that video game? Fortnite, whatever, that the hockey league, NHL ban because the players were not going to bed playing the game. So you get a huge fine if you play.
Everybody plays Fortnite.
I didn't know what it was until they told me about that.
It's when you look and you see kids out on the field dancing, they're doing Fortnite dance.
Oh, okay, well, he knows that. I don't know anything about that. But sleep is one of the most important, I would say, things that you need to do, especially, it depends on what you do for life, but the worst cancers.
Let's dig into sleep a little bit, because sleep is something that I love talking about. You know, you're supposed to get, your sleep is in these 90-minute cycles. And kind of early in the night, there are more non-REM type cycles with a little bit of REM sleep. And then as you get deeper into the night, early in the morning, they're more REM type sleep. And most people, I don't think they understand what's happening, what are all the benefits happening in the non-REM phases, and then what are the benefits happening in the REM phases. And I think that's good to touch on.
People don't understand sleep. First of all, a person that sleeps 6 to 8, let's make it 6 to 8 hours, okay? There's some people that live 10 or 11 hours, but 6 to 8 hours. People actually only sleep really 2 hours. People do not understand that. The reason we only sleep 2 hours is because if we were living in real life outside, sleeping with the animals coming at you, you have to be in a state that where you are asleep, but you have to be really awake.
Like a non-REM early phase one.
Yes, absolutely. So the total of REMs put together is about 2 hours. So people do not understand that. Now, what you guys also don't understand, that if you go to sleep and you're getting into that REM sleep and somebody wakes you up, that's worse than staying up all night. So, for example, if you're going to sleep and somebody wakes you up and you get up and you were going to get there, you didn't, and you go do whatever, and then you go back to sleep and you fall asleep and then you're going to go to your REM sleep and you get waking up again, that is breaking that, I would say, sleep correctness of that sleep, and even though you go back to sleep, it's not the same. So that's why people, instead of trying to go to sleep over and over again, no, you cannot sleep, get up, go read, go do something, because that's better than staying on bed and waking up.
Yeah, and then, if you look at just some of the basics, some of the things that happens in non-REM sleep is just the physical repair. Your body just actually, there's growth hormone secretion, all that good stuff. I look at it kind of as a physical restoration. Then in the REM sleep, you kind of get that, I call it memory pruning. Your brain sharpens up the memories it doesn't need, it gets rid of the stuff it wants.
Alpha, it's called the alpha.
Yeah,
alpha stem.
And so if you're getting up, like say too early in the morning, or you're getting woken up out of that REM state, you're kind of missing out on that. Or if you go to bed too late because you're playing video games, then you might be missing some of the non-REM sleep that's heavier in the early stages. So. And what Dr. Serrano mentioned too is it's the total amount of sleep is important, but it's got to be high quality sleep too.
Absolutely.
And I've looked at a lot of sleep deprivation studies. Most of them do 4 hours, and you just see all kinds of things going on. You see all of them show cognitive decline, can't answer questions,
performance, even physical and mental.
All of that kind of stuff. You see their leptin levels will go down, their ghrelin will go up, so they're hungry.
Weight gain.
Their cortisol goes up, and then their insulin sensitivity always goes down. But you see all these things with sleep deprivation, and I hear people say, "Well, I can survive, I can make it." You can make it, but it's not really optimal.
If God wanted you to stay freaking up at night, He will give you light bulbs for freaking eyes. Think about that. Can you see at night? Because I can't. Now a cat can.
I can't even sleep during the day.
I know, but that's saying, it's kind of funny that you mentioned this. I have a lot of firemen and policemen, and some of them have night shift. The worst cancers, if you take age, you take everything, and you compare the same, are the night shifters. Those are people that have the worst cancers. I know that a lot of healthcare people are fat. If you go to a hospital, you see all these people that are fat or heavy. Well, that's because they're staying up and working at night, taking care of you, and that breaks their cycle. It's not good for you to do night shift. I don't care who you are. If you're a night shifter, try to change jobs, because the most aggressive, worst cancers are those people, policemen, healthcare, firemen, and believe it or not, pilots. And the pilots are because they're shifting from one time zone. Right. So I'm here at 2 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning, because I'm going to go on my flight that is 5 o'clock to land there at 2 o'clock p.m. and I have to be awake. That completely screws up your cycle.
Yeah. So number one would be sleep. I want to throw in one here just because I've always been infatuated by this, and this caloric restriction. I remember reading all the rat studies where they would give the rats, I want to say it was 2/3 of their food, and the ones that had 2/3 of their food lived 50% longer than the ones that got all their food. And then I think since then there's been a mountain of studies with everything from fruit flies, all these other animals. And obviously you can't do that in people. You can't starve them. But it would seem like some caloric restriction, it seems to be that maybe there's some good scientific evidence to show that could also help.
There's enough scientific evidence that caloric restriction will actually increase your lifespan. But now it's kind of funny. Most of the studies have been done with caloric restriction, but they never really look at macronutrient restriction. And I want to bring that up because when they do caloric restriction on mice or mouse, they use something called the chow. And if you guys are really, really smart and you go look at the chow ingredients, first of all, I had never met a rat or a mice, but Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, that have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you notice, the mice move at night because they are what? They eat when they can. So they do not eat all the time, like free food there. No, they go and try to eat when they can. And when we do is we give them chow, and this chow, which you'll be very surprised what it is, that is corn syrup, by the way, and they mix other things to it. Okay, so what they did, yes, they reduced the calories. Well, if I'm reducing the calories of something that is for your body, of course it's going to extend your life. But what they are doing now is, okay, instead of just doing that, let's do a macronutrient restriction. Specifically, actually, they have done it with carbohydrates and they're doing it with fat. The fat restriction did not increase survival rate, but the carbohydrate restriction did increase survival rates or length span. So I want you guys to be aware of that, because when we're doing calorie restriction, we need to think about how do we restrict those calories, either by fat, carbohydrates, what do we pick? Protein restriction has never shown to extend life.
Well, and then the other question that comes to my mind is when you say caloric restriction, are all things equal? Because you can restrict calories by just say fasting one day a week, or you could restrict it by eating 2/3 of what you would normally eat. There's different
ways.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
You could have a delta daily, or you could have one day during the week where you don't eat anything. So there's different ways, and I'm not sure if that's been studied either.
Actually, they have. They have looked at number of hours. Is it better to eat between 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 or 3 to 7 p.m.? And actually, they compare. This is a cool study because I have it, in which they took the same people and they did a crossover study to see what they would do. And so we're going to make them only eat from 8 to 3 p.m. or 8 to 2 p.m. I don't remember. And then the other people were going to go from 3 to 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. It was 5 hours eating. And they shift the hours. And actually, the people that always lost weight were the early eaters. The people that ate late, they did lose some weight, but the amount of health issues like low insulin, low triglycerides were the people that ate early. And they ate the same amount of calories, but they shift the hours to eat them. So that's calorie restriction. I call that timing calorie restriction, in which I'm going to eat from 8 to 12, I'm going to eat 2,000 calories, but I don't eat anything else. So that's timing caloric restriction, in which I'm going to time my calories to eat during a certain amount of time, but then I'm going to eat anything else later. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is what I call macronutrient restriction, that I'm going to restrict my macronutrients for three days. I can either pick proteins, carbohydrates, or fats. And actually, if I have a woman sometimes that is competing, that is not losing weight or is holding water, I will restrict their protein content. You have no idea how much weight they lose, which is incredible. People think, oh, you're going to lose muscle. No, you lose fat, okay? The body is really smart. I also have fat restriction, carbohydrate restriction days. So it depends what I'm doing with that person. I also have timing restrictions, or what I say performance restriction, in which I say, okay, you're going to consume 90% of all your carbohydrate intake only after you work out, or you're going to consume it 90% before you work out, because hey, you want to gain size, we want to consume almost every calorie that we can before that workout, so we don't go hungry, and then we can gain muscle after, and then I'm going to consume another 90% of, for example, here I'm eating carbohydrates, so I have the blood sugar to go up, I have my workout, and then I'm going to use no carbohydrate, but I'm going to use fat and proteins. So So it depends what you want to do.
Okay, so we've seen that there's some validity to
Absolutely.
caloric restriction. What else?
The biggest one forgotten, nutrition. And I'm not talking about calorie restriction, I'm talking about nutrition in general, in which, we have great selection of type of foods. For example, me and John were talking about butter, and people, I'm going to go buy butter. No, the biggest toxic organ in your body is fat. The reason is we can store toxins on fat. It protects against toxicity. So somebody that is really overweight, okay, and they can lose weight, but they say, hey, Eric, I lost weight, but then I got really sick. It is true. Let me tell you guys why. We measure glyphosate or Roundup on a person that is overweight or heavy, and we measure the levels 2 or 3. They lose weight, they go 15 to 20. They jump 15 to 20 points because they were holding it on the fat cells. Because they're fat, they don't want that toxin out on the system, so it's put on the fat, and then all of a sudden they lose all this weight, they will feel better. So for example, Cheerios have been found to have high levels of glyphosate or Roundup, which is crazy. So you need to choose foods that are actually organic, healthy, nothing with fat. Never use cheese, butter, or dairy, or cream that has non-organic sources.
And that Roundup stuff, I think there's like a lot of lawsuits now.
Oh, they lost a court case for something 400 million, 600 million, but they don't lose that much money. They're going to lose money.
Very sad. So I want to back up a second because you made a really important point here. A lot of people ask me what I think about organic eating, and I say it depends on the source.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you need a pineapple to be organic?
No.
No. It's got a thick rind. But, what about something like a fatty cow meat, a fatty red meat? Yeah, you probably want that. What Eric was saying is that the higher fatty composition is potentially, there's toxins and different things in there. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's what your liver's for. And that's true, but it doesn't mean...
No, when you're drinking and taking Tylenol or something else that is already suffering, or I'm staying up at night, which changes. By the way, the liver likes to work every 4 hours, but that will be another talk.
Yeah, so nutrition, making better food choices, eating organic foods that are fattier in nature, and do your homework on it. Read which fruits you should get organically, read which veggies, because some are much higher risk than others.
Absolutely.
Strawberries is one I can think of that has
it's so severe. It's bad for
many different kinds of, and I like strawberries. Okay. What about, here's one I wanted to throw at you. If there's one thing, like if someone said to me, what's the worst thing for you? I would say stress. I would say it has nothing to do with food. It's stress. It's
absolutely.
When people are stressed out. That to me, you can see it. You can see people.
Stress doesn't let you sleep. Stress makes you eat bad.
Makes you eat bad.
Conveniently eating. Oh, absolutely. I would say we should change that to freaking number 1. I think I totally agree with you. I'm going to say one that people are not aware of, and John is very aware of this because his connection to a lady named Mary, lack of faith. And actually, they have done studies, and this is a very cool study in which they took, I think there were 1,400 patients with AIDS, okay? And they divided them half and half. They were at the same disease state, meaning they looked at the white blood cell count, they looked at the medications, they looked at everything. And they divided them, okay? And they say, okay, the same treatment, everything. The only issue was that these people on my right side were actually, all those cases were given to 4 nuns. And those 4 nuns were going to pray in a room. They didn't know the patient, they didn't know anybody. They were going to be prayed by those nuns. Now the same group on this, the same medications, same disease state, same everything, were not prayed for. At the end of 3 years, the survival rate of these people were only like 17%, which is absolutely crazy. But the survival rate of these people at 3 years was 78%. You consider that coincidence? I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, people always talk about, I have this saying where your mind goes, your body will follow. I'm sure I'm not the one who invented that. But I do think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that when you're positive and you believe good things are going to happen, you surround yourself with good people, I think a lot of times that does translate. Things do happen. I mean, if you want to get depressed, and here's one thing, I think probably everybody watching this video has seen this. you'll see a couple that's older. They've been together a long time, and one of them dies. Then what happens to the other one? They die.
There you go.
And to me, that kind of ties into what you're saying. Their outlook, their faith. Sometimes it's just it literally takes the life out of them. And I've seen that a lot myself personally, and my family. But yeah, I mean, where your mental state seems to really drive a lot. And you know, genetics are genetics, but it's not 100% of what's going to happen. So lack of faith. So we've got, I think number one, I think we would both say stress.
Yeah, stress. We need to put that one on the top.
Stress would be your number one thing. I'll give you a quick story. So for me, my perception of stress changed when I got sick in 2005. So I woke up in ICU. You were there. Mary was there. One of my friends was there. And when I woke up in ICU, I had a different viewpoint on what was really stressful. Now all of a sudden those things that when I was at work I thought were really stressful, now I was like, you know what, that really wasn't that big of a deal. Now hopefully you guys watching this video don't need something like nearly dying to change your perception of what stress is. But what I'm saying is a lot of those things that you think are a really big deal aren't a big deal. They're not a big deal. Things happen at work, it's okay, you can come in the next day, things are fine. You didn't lose a pound of fat in your diet this week. It's okay. You'll be all right. So I think just learning what's stressful, what's not stressful. Your mom having cancer, that's stressful. That's real stress. But I'm going to have to work an extra 15 minutes tonight. I'm not going to quite make it home. That's not stressful. So I think just keep that in mind. When you think about stress, sleep, obviously 6 to 8 hours, probably more like closer to 8, of high quality sleep, caloric restriction, good nutritional choices, and lack of faith. Those are our top 5.
We need to add exercise to that because exercise is the only drug that ever in every study show positive results. But I want to add, and I'm going to share this with John, because most people think about stress, I'm stressed because work or whatever. I have 7 different stressors. And the reason I put this, and I'm going to share this with you, usually I only share this with my patients because I want you guys to know what stress is. Most people have no idea what stress is. There are 3 types of stress. Good stress, in which allows you to respond positively. Tolerable stress, in which you have it, is there, and you can handle it, but it's hard. And toxic stress. That's a stress that is going to do damage to you. Those are my 3 levels of stress. Now, within those 3 levels of stress, I have 7 different stressors. And I know people that don't understand stress, so I want to explain it today. One is genetic stress. Like, for example, like a mutation, like a kid with autism, Down syndrome, that is a stress, okay? Not even for that person, but for the family. But that is, if you have some type of mutation, it's stressful because you cannot handle toxins like the way it is. Oh, my liver can handle everything. No, if you have a mutation, you have to be aware of that. Physical stress, and when I talk about physical stress, I'm talking about 2 types of physical stress. Workouts, the morons that work out every day, 7 days a week, I gotta train. I have a lot of those, by the way. Those people, there's a guy named God, G-O-D, and for some reason that guy took a day off. They call it the Sabbath. They say, I'm gonna take a day off. I'm gonna take a day off. The dude that knows everything took a day off. I'm freaking learning from that guy. I'm gonna take days off. The second one is abuse, when you physically abuse in a relationship. Third one is chemical stress. And chemical stress, you go with chemical stress. What's a chemical stress? Well, nutrition is a chemical stress. Toxins is a chemical stress. Drugs are a chemical stress. So I want you guys to be aware of that. Next is economics. Why economics? If I don't have no money, how am I going to eat? That's a stress. That is a job. Social and emotional. I put that component together because if your son is using drugs or your daughter is using drugs, or I'm losing my job, I have to move, that is a social stress that actually absolutely affects you. The next one is environmental stress. I am freaking from Puerto Rico where the sun is on every day. The beach, I just walk 2 miles, I'm on the beach. Now I have to walk 1,000 miles to get to the beach. The sun doesn't come out till freaking 8 o'clock. And we're done. Oh my God, it's 2:40, it's gonna be done. It's already dark actually. I should take a picture. So I want you to tell you, yes, environmental. Also, you don't know what this. When you're at work and you're working on the lights, depending on which lights you're working, that's stressful. And who knows, if you're a fireman that has to clean chemicals out, if you're in a chemical company, you have to be aware of that. And the last one is religion. Again, no God, no faith, that's a stress.
All right, so there you go. There's some thoughts if you want to live longer on things that you need to focus on to make that happen. All right.
Thank you.